But we got a highlight video breakdown for you here coming up of the Thursday night football game between the Bengals and the Browns. Kyle, a Bengals fan, Adam, a reluctant Browns fan after their disastrous showing in week one. But really interesting handicap here. Totals come down on this game as well, sitting 44.5 or 44. Browns -6. And I don't know where you're going to go with your breakdown of the game. I feel like we're both going to talk about and focus on the same thing. But Browns -6 here on Thursday night. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I want to say the Bengals with a really tough way to lose that game in week one. You couldn't lose it much more difficult way. The Browns were blown out in week one. But which way would you rather lose? I mean, because you could argue either side of this. You could say the Bengals losing close, they played pretty well. I don't know how good the Chargers are, but they're a decent team. The Browns were blown out by a really good team, and the Ravens. But maybe getting blown out could be a good thing for the Browns here, kind of a wake-up call, where the Bengals, it was a tough way to lose. So you could argue this either way, certainly. I will say, I think Burrow played really well for no preseason and first game as a pro. As a Bengals fan, I've seen a lot of really bad quarterbacks over the years. I could date myself and say, David Klingler, Keely Smith, many, many really bad quarterbacks over the years. And then they had a good one in Carson Palmer before he got hurt. Really the Bengals have had some pretty poor quarterbacks. And I think Andy Dalton was kind of a middle of the road or a little bit worse quarterback. But the offensive line has been a major problem for the Bengals. It still is a major problem. And I'm concerned about that, especially against the Browns pass rush. The Browns can rush the passer. The Bengals were the worst defense against the run last year. DJ Reader should help that some. I know he left the game against the Chargers. Hopefully nothing serious in that one. His status is really important in this game since the Browns do have a strong running attack. I think that's an injury to watch for sure. What is Baker Mayfield? Do we know what he is at this point? I think Mayfield is still a bit of an unknown, and this far into his career, usually we would have figured out somebody. I know that some people thought Mayfield was really good when he first came in, and then other people thought he's overrated. It's probably lies somewhere in the middle of what that is, but I think that he takes a little bit too many risks with the football. He's a little bit too careless with the football. I don't see him as a great quarterback. I don't know that he's as bad as some people think either. So somewhere in the middle. But I do have to say, I think this line might come down a bit. I'm really in no big rush to back the Bengals. I am a Bengals fan, definitely. So I hope the Bengals win this game. I'll say that right from the top. But the Browns' running attack and pass rush, I think, is a matchup advantage for them in this one. So the Bengals offense didn't do much against the Chargers until that last drive. I know Burrow said after the game, it was the first time he felt like he was kind of, things were going smoothly and they were in, the way that they want to play. They were moving, clicking down the field. Things were going good. Are they going to be able to be better on offense in this game? The Browns, I don't think were quite as bad as that final score would look against the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens are a really good team, and you could argue that the Ravens are the best team in the NFL, certainly. They have to be power rated first or second. So, be careful about, thinking the Browns are terrible just from one game. I would lean to the Browns in this game. So I'm curious to see what you say. I probably won't bet this game. What's the current total showing on this one right now?
44.5.
44.5, and it opened higher than that, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so the Bengals game being played the way that it was, the Bengals defense being better, they played pretty slowly, I think is dictating that total moving down. I would have leaned to the under, but I don't love the under 45. I think in this one, I would lean to the Browns. If it gets too much lower, I might consider betting the Browns because, I'm not afraid to go against my team if I feel like there's value, but curious what your thoughts are on this one.
Yeah, I'm even starting to see 44 pop as we're recording this here. I'm glad you didn't steal my thunder because something that's going to be talked about a lot and something I think could have an impact on the line for this game, although we haven't seen it yet. This is an awful spot for Cincinnati. They did lose that game in devastating fashion, but moreover than that, you've got a first-year quarterback, a second-year head coach, and you've got a short week to prep for a brand new Browns offense that you haven't really seen with Kevin Stefanski, and you've got the travel. And furthermore, it's probably going to be a bus trip up I-71. It's probably not going to be a short flight or anything like that. A lot of teams, kind of trying to limit their exposure. I saw things about teams showing up later than usual to the stadium. I saw things about teams traveling on a different day, stuff like that. So for the Bengals here, you don't get preseason. You've got limited OTAs. You've got Joe Burrow. and you got to go on the road and play on Thursday night against a Browns team that got embarrassed last week. This is a horrendous spot for Cincinnati. Now, does Cleveland take advantage? It's a fair question. And also for Cleveland, too, it's not great that they only have, essentially 3-4 days between games because their back seven is a train wreck. Mac Wilson is hurt. Both corners were out. Greedy Williams didn't play last week. Grant Delpit was hurt in training camp. And their back seven looked really, really bad against Lamar Jackson. Joe Burrow is not Lamar Jackson. Zach Taylor is not John Harbaugh. But you wonder here for the Browns, how many adjustments can they make here with this really quick turnaround? Everything is set up for them to win this game. Everything is set up for them to cover this game. Will they do it? Well, that's a different story. One of the things that hurt them last week is that they got behind early and couldn't really run the football. They had to throw it a lot. They had to target OBJ a lot. Seemed like he was kind of, whining and complaining early on in the game. I want my touches. I want my targets. Baker started to force the ball to him. And when they do that, it takes them out of their offense with a lot of different weapons. This week, things probably go differently where they could maybe get a lead, establish that run with the two-back system, give Baker some easier throws to make instead of having to go vertical, which he's not particularly good at doing right now. I think everything is set up well for the Browns. The spot favors them. I think that they've got more continuity in the sense that a lot of these guys played together last year. Their offensive line is better. It's Browns or nothing for me, but man, they looked so bad last week. You wonder if they can not only win this game, but they've got to win it by margin to cover.
Yeah, don't you think this line has a chance of going down though, maybe 5.5 or 5 or something? I mean, because
I think so,
public
yeah.
perception of this is going to be the Browns sucked in week one. They were bad in week one. Like I said, the Ravens are really good. And that's something to keep in mind. The Ravens are going to make a lot of teams look bad this season. So be careful about downgrading the Browns too much. I think if you like the Browns, you probably can get a little bit better number than this 6 right now. And like you, I do think this is a bad spot for the Bengals. Both of these coaches are a bit of unknowns. They're both newer guys, and you couldn't say, well, one coach is a veteran, he's been in this spot a lot of times. But at the same time, the Browns have less weaknesses than the Bengals do. I think Burrow will probably be a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield, but around him, the talent isn't nearly as good as what the Browns have. The Browns are pretty good on the defensive line. I think that could give the Bengals quite a few problems in this one. And like you said, the Browns weren't really able to use that running attack. They probably can use it here, and I don't know that the Bengals can stop them. So I'm going to lean Browns in this one, and as a fan, hope that I'm wrong.
Well, there you go. There are our thoughts on the Thursday night football game, the Bengals and the Browns. Got a lot of great thoughts here on ATS.io radio. We certainly encourage you to check out the full podcasts along with these highlight video clips that we've got.